You're a failure. You're no longer my daughter or anything to me. Don't ever come back home. Let someone else take care of you. Ava, shocked by the loss of her beloved husband and the disownment by her father, Joseph, burst into tears right there. Even I, who was listening nearby, couldn't stop crying at such harsh words. That's terrible. After saying what he wanted, Joseph left the scene despite it being in the middle of the funeral. Seeing Ava standing there stunned. Excuse me, may I speak with you? Huh? Right after this, my heart ached, learning the truth from Thomas's colleague. When I told Ava, I see, it's okay, I've been holding back all this time. He was my only dad, but I won't hesitate anymore. For Thomas, I need to move forward. Ava's expression, which had been in tears just moments before, became resolute, and in her eyes there seemed to be a strong determination. I won't let him say anything anymore. He has to face the consequences of his actions. There's nothing more to say, and I feel the same way. Consequences. This is the result of actions for someone who has done terrible things. Good morning, Thomas. Did you sleep well? Good morning. What time is it? It's past 10 already. We plan to go shopping together today, remember? Ava is right. Hurry up and get ready. I am Evelyn, 62 years old, and the one who is groggily waking up is my son, Thomas. Looking at him with tender eyes is Thomas's wife, Ava. Last night, my eldest son and his wife stayed over for the first time in a while. They've both been busy with work and couldn't visit often, but they came over after things calmed down at work. My son Thomas has always been earnest and kind since he was little, and that hasn't changed. When I lost my husband 10 years ago, Thomas was just 17. Back then, I tried to act strong and not let Thomas know how shocked I was at losing my husband, but he quickly realized I was forcing myself. I'll take on the role of chief mourner. At the young age of 17, Thomas took on the responsibility of being the chief mourner from start to finish. I remember being amazed at how strong and grown up my child had become. After that, Thomas and I started our life together. He didn't go to college to support our living, but instead took a job at a factory right after graduating high school. He worked tirelessly every day with no time for leisure just to support our life. Then, on his 26th birthday, Thomas brought home a woman. Nice to meet you. I'm Ava. Ava was a wonderfully kind woman with a lovely smile and great consideration for others. I couldn't have been more thankful to God for Thomas having such a wonderful girlfriend. A year later, they got married. Surrounded by blessings from everyone, the couple looked blissfully happy, and I was happy to see them like that. However, there was someone watching the scene with a harsh, critical expression. The one emitting an odd atmosphere, standing out all alone, was Ava's dad, Joseph. He was the only one who disapproved of their marriage. The reason wasn't clear, but one thing was certain. He had no love for his daughter and would verbally abuse her in public. How can a failure who couldn't even go to college expect to find happiness in marriage? I couldn't comprehend how a father could say such things to his own daughter. Why couldn't he just be happy for her? Thomas and Ava work at the same company. They work late every day, yet they seem to enjoy their time together, living fulfilling lives, which makes me proud as a parent. But Joseph didn't think so. Then the phone rang. Hello? Staying with that guy will only bring you misery. What? You'd better get a divorce soon. It's for your own good. That girl is a failure. Since their marriage, Joseph has been making harassing calls like this almost every day. Are they planning to split up? Are they okay with becoming unhappy? They need to act fast before it's too late. Such a terrible father. How can someone not wish for their own daughter's happiness, despite how wonderful they are together? Thomas, are you ready? We should leave soon, or it'll be past lunchtime. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm ready. Then let's go. Perhaps Joseph never experienced such simple everyday moments. That might be why he says such awful things. It's quite sad. Just as I was thinking this, our doorbell rang. Oh, who could that be? Ava reached for the doorknob. Evelyn, I'll get it. Yes, who is? Dad, why are you here? To our surprise, Joseph had come to our house unexpectedly. I'm coming in." Saying this, he entered and sat down on the living room sofa, behaving as if it were his own home, which left us stunned. "Come here, quickly." Hearing his voice, we nervously hurried to the living room, where he said, "When are these two going to divorce, or did my words not get through?" "Dad, please stop." "Stop? I'm worried, you know. I'm worried that a failure like you is going to make someone else miserable. If you want me to stop, then get into college first." What had he come for? Just to say such things? In front of me and Thomas, he kept hurling abusive words at Ava, one after another. His harsh words made me raise my voice involuntarily. "How can you say such things to your own daughter? Don't you realize that after you divorced her mother, she took care of everything at home? She didn't go to college because she was working part-time jobs to support the family." But my words were ignored. "I come here out of concern, and you defend a failure? That makes you a failure too. So that means your son is a failure too. At least now I know you're worthless as a person and as a parent." At his unbearable insults, I was about to slam the table in anger when suddenly, Ava, who had been silent all this time, stood up. In that moment, "Stop it!" At Ava's words, Thomas's movements slowed. I could see tears streaming down Ava's eyes. "Stop wasting your time with this nonsense. At least educate your child properly." With those words, Joseph left the house. A fortnight after that nightmarish day, my eldest son and his wife came over for a visit in the morning. We spent the day tidying up the room, cooking lunch, and watching movies. It was as if the previous nightmare was a lie, and we were enjoying a peaceful time. Then Ava said, "I'm an only child, so I've never done things like this before. I'm really enjoying it now." "Really? That's great to hear." Thomas showed a happy face at her words. While we were enjoying this calm moment, a phone call came. "I'll get it." Thomas answered the call and after a word or two quickly hung up. Who was it? But he only replied, "It's okay." And that's all he would say. Then, with a thoughtful look on his face, he said, "I need to step out for a bit." Saying this, Thomas left for somewhere. Ava and I exchanged glances, noticing his unusual demeanor. At that moment, an indescribable anxiety struck us both. 2 hours passed and Thomas still hadn't returned. While we waited anxiously, a call came to my mobile from an unknown number. "Hello?" The call was from a hospital, and the news they delivered was shocking. My hand holding the receiver trembled, and I was at a loss for words. I instinctively turned around and my eyes met Ava's. At that moment, Ava seemed to sense something and looked down. 30 minutes later, at the hospital, we saw Thomas lying quietly on a hospital bed, his face covered in wounds. He had been in a traffic accident, hit by a car while crossing the street. While the police explained the situation, Ava repeatedly spoke to her beloved husband, but he remained still. All I could do was silently embrace Ava's shoulder. Confronted with this unbelievable reality, we were utterly exhausted. Time just passed by. Then I heard a familiar male voice. "I told you so. Should have listened to me." Ava was on the phone. Despite everything terrible he had said, she couldn't keep silent about her husband's death to her father. Glaring with her eyes red and swollen, "How can you say something like that?" Ava asked. "Huh? What's with that look? Blame your own life if you have complaints. It just shows that was the kind of life he had." Laughing, he walked away. Afterwards, we each returned to our homes. I sat on the sofa, motionless, and waited for morning to come. A few days later, Thomas's funeral was held. Relatives, friends, and colleagues gathered to mourn Thomas. There were people sobbing and crying, some holding back tears while looking at Thomas's portrait, and Ava, who was crying more than anyone. In the midst of everyone's deep sorrow, I was the only one who didn't shed a tear, watching over Thomas's last moments. Then, during the funeral, amidst Ava's loud crying, "Come here." Joseph, despite it being the funeral, took Ava outside. Feeling anxious about Joseph's irrational behavior during the funeral, I followed them. As I approached the courtyard outside, I heard voices. Getting closer, I heard, "Stop crying already. It's all your fault that this happened. If he hadn't married you, none of this would have happened." At Joseph's words, so unlike those of a father, I was on the verge of losing my patience. A failure like you is no longer my daughter or anything to me. Don't ever come back home. Let someone else take care of you. Shocked by the loss of her beloved husband and the disownment from her blood-related dad, Ava broke down in tears right in front of us. Even I, listening nearby, couldn't hold back my tears at such harsh words. After saying what he wanted, Joseph left the funeral, regardless of the occasion, looking at Ava standing there stupefied. "Excuse me, may I speak with you?" After this, my heart ached, learning the truth from Thomas's colleague. When I told Ava, "So that's how it was. It's okay. I've been enduring all this time because he was my only dad. But now, I won't hesitate anymore. For Thomas's sake, I need to move forward." Ava's expression, previously marred by tears, now showed a newfound resolve. And in her eyes, there seemed to be a strong determination. "I won't let him say anything anymore. He has to face the consequences of his actions." There was no need for more words. She felt the same as I did. Consequences. This is the natural outcome for someone who has done such terrible things. After the hectic funeral ended, our days gradually returned to their previous calm. The loss of a loved one was a deep disappointment, but now we can only look forward and move on. "Evelyn, shall we go shopping today?" "Yes, let's. We've been too busy to go for a while, so it would be nice." Ava began to visit daily, spending time with me. We did everything together: cleaning, eating, watching TV, and Thomas's portrait was always there, making it feel like we were still a family of 3. As peaceful days passed, a phone call came. "Hello?" "It's me. Put Ava on." It was a call from Joseph. "What do you want with Ava?" "It's none of your business. Just put Ava on." Joseph was still being overbearing as usual. It was time to let him know things were different now. "After saying such things, you now want to talk to Ava? That's very convenient for you." "Shut up. Put Ava on." "If you insist, why don't you call Ava's mobile yourself? I doubt she would answer your call, though. By the way, Ava is not here today. She's at work." I hung up the phone after saying that. That night, I finished work after receiving a text from Ava saying, "There's something important I need to discuss with you. Please come to my house quickly." I replied, 15 minutes later, "So what is the important thing you wanted to talk about?" "Actually, there's something I haven't told Ava yet. It was something I had learned from Thomas's colleague during the funeral. I hadn't told her right away because I was worried about Ava's mental state. She was shocked by the loss of her beloved husband, and I couldn't bear to add to her burden, so I waited until Ava was more settled. "I had a feeling you were hiding something, so that's what it was." I was shocked too when I heard it. Probably he didn't want to involve us. Ava too couldn't hide her surprise. When I mentioned the call from Joseph, "Considering our future, this might be a good opportunity. We need to end it all and properly move forward this time." Ava seemed determined as she immediately called Joseph and arranged to meet him the day after next. After hanging up, Ava's face bore a strong expression of resolve. I knew then that there was nothing more to worry about. All that was left was to prepare to move forward. And 2 days later, "Well, I'm off then. Take care." Ava, as usual, headed off to work. Shortly after, a call came from Joseph, as if he had timed it. "Remember, it's tomorrow. Don't run away." "I understand. Running away is out of the question. On the contrary, we are the ones who won't let you escape. It's been 3 months since Thomas passed away, and the time has come to give Joseph a harsh punishment. Are you ready? Yes, let's go." After finishing work, Ava met us at a nearby park, and we headed to Joseph's apartment. His apartment was in a luxury building located far away on distant land. It was a mystery how someone with no job could afford to live there. But the story we heard from Thomas's colleague made everything clear. After driving for 3 hours, we arrived at the apartment. Approaching Joseph's door and ringing the bell, the door slowly opened. Joseph's face, wrinkled and grim, appeared in the gap. "You're late. Come in." "We'll talk here." Surprised by our response, Joseph looked astonished. "Dad, you need to leave this apartment right now." "What?" "This apartment has already been sold." "What? What do you mean?" "Because I'm the actual contract holder of this apartment, and you, being an outsider, can't live here." Indeed, Ava was the contract holder for this luxury apartment. She had purchased it before marrying Thomas. I want to live near my childhood home when we get married. I want to give back to Mom, who raised me. Respecting Thomas's wishes, Ava had put off moving into the apartment. Naturally, this was never disclosed to Joseph. And now, this leads to the story we heard from Thomas's colleague. Joseph, learning that Thomas had bought this apartment, repeatedly demanded from Thomas, who was seeking his approval for their marriage. "Let me live in this apartment," Joseph had said. Furthermore, not satisfied with just that, he kept demanding money from Thomas for gambling, drinks, and even living expenses. This had been going on since he first came to our house. Naturally, Thomas's monthly salary was quickly depleted. Desperate and with nowhere to turn, Joseph even resorted to borrowing money from a loan shark. Despite these struggles, Thomas continued to seek Joseph's approval for their marriage until his sudden, accidental death. "You should know the hardship my son endured because of you. Don't think you can just live as if nothing happened after ruining my son's life for your own comfort. I never thought a person could be so messed up, especially my own dad. This is it. As of today, our relationship as parent and child ends. You're on your own now." "What do you mean by you're on your own?" Ava, not responding to Joseph's question, left him speechless, standing there. "And we have no interest in listening to you now. It's the same for Ava. Whatever you say, it's useless." Then, suddenly, Joseph began to apologize deeply at the doorway. "I was wrong. Please forgive me. I beg you." Pathetic. Whatever you do is irrelevant to us. We don't care what happens to you from now on. As we were about to leave, two men approached us, and then, "Is Joseph here? This guy needs to pay back the money he borrowed in place of his deceased brother. 50,000 in total. Let's go to the office to discuss this." "Help me! Don't abandon me!" The men were the loan sharks to whom the son had owed money. "This has nothing to do with us. Goodbye." "Wait, help me." After that, Joseph was taken to the loan shark's office. With no job, Joseph couldn't repay the $50,000 debt and is now desperately working to pay it off. Meanwhile, I suggested, "Evelyn, how about we go out for dinner today? I found a nice Italian restaurant." "Oh, really? I love Italian cuisine." "Then get ready quickly." Ever since then, we have been enjoying our days together like a true family. And beside us, "I'm off then, Thomas." "Thomas, I'm leaving now." "Take care." It's as if we can hear our son's voice from heaven, bidding us farewell. And from now on, the three of us will continue to live happily together. "That woman, she's always been a liar. Ha ha ha, cancer. How exaggerated. She just wanted to skip work." These were the words spoken by my sister Miranda's husband, Martin, and her mother-in-law, Susan. Miranda is not someone who would lie. I can attest to that, having spent 25 years with her. I utterly despise the two who could say such things to Miranda, who is suffering from cancer and urgently needs treatment. It was unforgivable. I felt a strong need to save Miranda. I am Savannah, 25 years old, working in sales since graduating from college. I managed to join my first choice company, so my mind is always occupied with work. "Savannah, did you do overtime again today? Don't overwork yourself and get sick." That's what my dad, who has been a company employee for many years, often says out of concern. Dad is kind, has a big heart, and generally doesn't sweat the small stuff. He rarely gets angry, but when he does, it's truly frightening. I remember pushing a friend during a fight in elementary school. The friend fell and got hurt, and it wasn't serious, but my parents were called to the school. I still remember how scary Dad was when he apologized to my friend's parents and later scolded me in the car. He didn't yell, but his angry face was unimaginable from his usually gentle demeanor. I had thought it was my friend's fault for the fight, but Dad must have realized my reluctant apology. After being scolded by Dad, I understood the severity of my actions and regretted them. Mom passed away from an illness before I entered elementary school. I don't have many memories of her, but Dad raised me with plenty of love while working, so I never felt lonely, even on his rest days. My sister Miranda, who is 5 years older, has always been the one I can talk to about anything. Despite the age difference, she has been like a friend and sometimes like a mom to me. Savannah, you've got someone you like, right? How did you know? I'm thinking about confessing. I could tell Miranda things I couldn't say to Dad. Miranda and I have never fought. I adore her. When she got engaged, it was to a tall, slender man with a refreshing smile, who looked great in a suit. He had visited our house a few times, and I had met him on those occasions, but I'm Martin, and I'm dating Miranda. Thank you for having me. He had visited our house a few times, and I had met him on those occasions, but he greeted me with a refreshing smile each time. She seemed so happy since she started dating Martin. I've been proposed to! Congratulations! I'm so happy for you! I cried when she told me about the proposal. I was a bit sad we wouldn't live together anymore, but overjoyed for her happiness. Dad felt the same. He cried when Miranda told him about our marriage. I'm sorry for the hardships I caused you since you were little. I'm happy you found happiness. Congratulations! Miranda and I were surprised to see Dad's tears, as we had never seen him cry before. When Mom passed away, Miranda was in elementary school. She used to go straight to the kitchen after school and learn to cook from Grandma, who occasionally visited. By middle school, she was making dinner as if it were the most natural thing. She never complained, even though I knew she missed out on playing with friends. Dad might have felt guilty about it. Later, Martin came to a family meeting. He brought sought-after sweets for me and a rare brandy for Dad. I thought he was perfect. I promise to make Miranda happy and never make her cry. Thank you. Martin greeted us politely. Dad also looked relieved. I felt confident that Miranda would be in good hands with him. I learned then that Martin was the heir to a prestigious hotel. After the greetings, they happily got married. Just before Miranda left home, I found out she was going to live with her in-laws. Are you sure that's okay? Won't there be harassment like in dramas? As newlyweds, wouldn't it be better if you lived alone? Savannah, you worry too much. Their house is big enough for them to have their own space. Did Susan seem like the type to harass her daughter-in-law? Indeed, I had met Martin's parents at the wedding, and both were very cheerful and friendly. They were greeting everyone at the venue. Please take good care of Martin, and even poured me a drink. I felt reassured, thinking that if Miranda said it was okay, then it must be. Miranda was able to continue her job, though the commute became a bit more challenging. I felt a bit embarrassed for worrying too much. On the day we sent Miranda off, I felt happy, but also lonely, and I found myself crying in bed. Half a year passed. I hadn't seen Miranda, but we exchanged messages occasionally. Her replies were slow, but she seemed to be doing well. I had a lot I wanted to talk to her about, but I refrained from disturbing her happiness. As for me, I was still immersed in my work. Living with Dad made me realize how much I appreciated Miranda. I thought I had been helping with household chores, but I found myself forgetting laundry in the washer or burning the food, realizing I wasn't as capable as I thought. Dad just laughed and didn't get angry. Then one day, when Dad was away on a business trip, I worked late and was eating delivery food at home. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Wondering who it could be at this late hour, I cautiously went to the door, only to find Miranda standing there. Miranda? The Miranda I saw after a long time had lost a surprising amount of weight in just half a year. It was more accurate to say she looked emaciated rather than just thin, and her complexion was pale. As I rushed to her, she collapsed into my arms. I instinctively hugged her. I took the exhausted Miranda to my room and put her to bed. There were many questions I wanted to ask, but I thought it best to let her rest first. Savannah, I'm sorry. Miranda kept apologizing. It's okay, just rest for now. We'll talk after. I rushed to the convenience store, bought her some drinks and fever-reducing sheets, and handed them to Miranda. What happened? When I asked Miranda, I have cancer, but they won't let me go to the hospital, she replied in a hoarse voice, tears streaming down her face. It turned out Miranda's happiness lasted only until they started living together. Everyone changed the moment I became a daughter-in-law, Miranda said. She said that on the day of her marriage, She was asked to quit her job to help with the family business. She accepted this demand. After quitting her job, Miranda would wake up at 4 a.m. to thoroughly clean the entire house and prepare breakfast for the family and 10 relatives. Then, she would help at the hotel until the evening, followed by making dinner for everyone, doing the laundry, and completing the remaining household chores, not going to bed until late at night. She was only getting about 3 hours of sleep each night, which made my overtime seem trivial in comparison. Moreover, she had no days off. Every day she faced bullying by Susan, who meticulously checked every household and work task. Martin, too, had changed drastically from his kind demeanor before marriage, becoming authoritarian. He didn't help Miranda against Susan's bullying, often siding with Susan and being harsh. Additionally, Miranda had a health checkup before quitting her job, where cancer was detected. Fortunately, it was found early, and she was told that immediate surgery could cure it. However, her family didn't believe her. She pleaded to be hospitalized for the surgery, but was forced to work from dawn till late night instead. I was overwhelmed by the sheer amount of information. Just hearing it all made me tear up. What? I don't understand. Why didn't you tell me? When I asked Miranda, a shocking answer came back. Miranda revealed that Susan and Martin checked her mobile phone daily and monitored all of her replies. She was told it was to ensure she wasn't slacking off in her household and work duties. That's why she couldn't ask for help. During our conversation, Miranda's bag kept vibrating with notifications. Is that Martin? Miranda nodded slightly. I'll handle it. Miranda, you rest for today. We'll go to the hospital tomorrow. I took Miranda's mobile phone to the living room. There were over 100 missed calls. When it rang again, I decided to answer. Hey, where did you run off to? Abandoning your duties? What a failure as a daughter-in-law. Martin? This is Savannah. Hearing my voice, Martin's tone changed. Oh, Savannah. Long time no see. Can you pass the phone to Miranda? Why would I do that? Where's that intensity gone? Miranda can't come to the phone right now, Martin. You know Miranda has cancer, right? I wanted to yell at him, but I confronted him calmly instead. Funny girl. You believe Miranda's lies. She doesn't have cancer. She just wanted to avoid housework. What? On what basis are you saying she doesn't have cancer? Miranda arrived at my house completely exhausted and emaciated. I'm taking her to the hospital tomorrow. She won't be going back there. She's there, right? I'll come to pick her up. Don't come. If you do, I'll call the police. I hung up the phone. It kept ringing, and I was scared they might come over. But fortunately, they didn't show up, and the calls were just continuous. I turned off Miranda's phone. I felt frustrated. I wondered why I hadn't noticed anything before the marriage. It pained me to see my beloved Miranda suffering. I couldn't sleep that night. The next day, I took Miranda to the hospital early in the morning. Her physical condition had deteriorated significantly, and the doctors advised immediate surgery, so she was admitted to the hospital. At the hospital, I requested that Miranda not be allowed to meet anyone who might visit, just to be safe. Then I went home to bring the necessary things for her hospital stay. When I arrived, Dad had already returned. Dad, something terrible has happened. I had been too upset to tell Dad anything yet. What? What's wrong? Dad looked startled by my urgency. As I explained about Miranda, his face gradually turned darker, and by the end, he was red with anger. What? I can't believe this. First, we need to go to the hospital. Let's go. It had been years since I'd seen Dad so angry. We both headed to the hospital where Miranda was waiting. Miranda, are you okay? Dad, I'm sorry. Don't talk anymore. Just tell me what you want me to do from now on. I'll take care of it. I want a divorce. Understood. I silently listened to the exchange between Miranda and Dad. As Dad was about to leave the room, I started to follow when I determined to help her. Savannah, wait, take this. Miranda handed me an envelope. What's this? Before I could check, Savannah, let's go, called Dad. I put the envelope in my bag and left the room. Dad and I then headed to Martin's house. Upon arriving, Susan came out. Finally, you've brought her back. Oh, she's not here? Spoke as if nothing was wrong. I couldn't stand it, and Miranda has been hospitalized because of you, I told them firmly. Oh my, that sounds terrible. But it must be a sham, right? That girl is a habitual liar. Susan replied without a hint of remorse. What? A sham? Well, let's discuss this inside, Dad said, and we entered the house. It seemed Susan was the only one there. Miranda's father-in-law must be at work. I remembered Miranda saying he was a workaholic and indifferent to anything but work. He had turned a blind eye to the mistreatment Miranda suffered. Then Martin came from the back. Oh, long time no see. He greeted us with the same refreshing smile as when we first met. Now I understood that these two were only good on the surface. Miranda has cancer. It's not a sham or anything of the sort. Harold, you're exaggerating. It can't be cancer. I was astounded by Martin's laughing response. Then look at this. Dad showed them the medical report from the hospital. Susan and Martin looked shocked, but quickly, oh my, it was true. We never believed her because she's always lying. Regular behavior is important, isn't it? Susan said. Miranda doesn't lie. What do you think she is? I couldn't help but interject. A daughter-in-law. Nothing more, nothing less. You wouldn't understand being single. A daughter-in-law is supposed to live for the family. Susan started spouting nonsense. What? Live for the family by not letting her go to the hospital despite her illness? Making her work from dawn to midnight? She said everyone changed after coming to this house. She's lying about that too. She's good at lying, isn't she? Maybe it's because she's from a single-parent family. Being a daughter-in-law isn't being a guest. It's normal to be strict. No matter what I said, Susan kept laughing and responding. I felt like crying, but I clenched my teeth and held back, knowing I couldn't let myself cry. Then Dad spoke up. The illness wasn't a lie, was it? Do you have any proof of her other supposed lies? Well, it doesn't matter anymore. It's clear from this conversation that you're unreasonable. We cannot leave Miranda in this house. We will proceed with the divorce through a lawyer, as Miranda wishes. He said he seemed calm, but I could tell he was trembling with anger. Harold, please wait. Let me see Miranda. I'm sorry for not believing her illness, but as Mom said, Miranda often lies. And the claim that Mom was harsh and made her work from dawn to midnight is false. I think we can sort it out if we talk. Please let me see Miranda. Martin pleaded with Dad, apologizing deeply. I was appalled that he still called Miranda a liar. And then listen to this. I played a voice recording. It documented Miranda's day from early morning to late night. 4:30 a.m., starting to clean. Miranda's voice was recorded. This cleaning is inadequate. Look at this dust. A dusty woman like you wouldn't notice, right? Want to be thrown out? Susan's voice was on the recording. In another part, I have cancer. Please let me go to the hospital. Miranda pleaded, to which Martin responded, Shut up. If you have time to say that, work. Maybe working hard will cure it. It was unbelievable. Susan and Martin were speechless, seemingly unaware they had been recorded. Now who is the liar? We'll be leaving. If you try to approach Miranda again, I will not forgive you. Dad said, and we left the house, heading back to the hospital. When we told Miranda about the discussion, Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for Dad and Savannah, she cried. It was because of your recording, Miranda, I told her. When we left the room, the envelope Miranda handed me contained the voice recorder. On the day Miranda fled to our home, she had hidden the recorder in her clothing. Miranda must have known that her in-laws would pretend not to know anything. She realized she needed evidence. Her previous job at a publishing house had given her access to a voice recorder. Knowing Susan and Martin, it was risky. There was no telling what they would do if they found out. It must have required a great deal of courage. It must have taken a lot of courage for Miranda to record everything in secret. Later, Dad found a strong divorce lawyer and the divorce was successfully finalized. I followed Miranda's example and recorded our conversation with Susan and Martin on my mobile phone. The fact that Miranda had cancer and they denied her medical care, coupled with the two recordings, enabled us to secure a substantial settlement in the divorce trial. The lawyer told us that the hotel run by Martin's family was in dire financial straits. They couldn't afford the settlement and asked to pay in installments. but the lawyer rejected the request without even consulting us. With the lump sum payment, it seemed only a matter of time before the hotel would close. Curious, I checked the hotel's reviews and found them to be quite low. It made sense to me. People like that couldn't possibly offer warm hospitality. A friend living near the hotel told me that neighbors had overheard our conversation with Susan on the day Dad and I visited. In a small town, rumors spread quickly, and it seems they were now viewed coldly by the community. Miranda's surgery was a success, and she was discharged from the hospital after about a month and a half. Looking a bit healthier than the day she had fled to our house, she decided to spend some time recovering at home, continuing outpatient treatments. I was happy that the three of us were living together again. I'm thinking of making Dad's favorite steak today. Oh, I'm looking forward to it. I can leave work early today, so I'll buy the ingredients on my way home. Miranda's cooking was incomparably delicious compared to mine. I couldn't be happier with our days filled with laughter as a family of three.